What's the best part about being a writer?
Having written, being done with the writing. I think
Common answer.
Right. That's the writing. Getting down the first draft is very hard for me. I like rewrites a lot better. That part is always more fun. But being done with it, putting it out, getting it to readers, and I write because stories were so important to me. You know, Banished in rural Ohio growing up, books were very important to me, and I felt this connection to the larger world and to writers, some of whom died before I was even born. And that was a very formative experience growing up. And so the chance to write and tell stories and to make that connection with people I'll never meet is pretty exciting to me. I like that aspect of it. So having written, getting the work out in the world where people can read it, that's the best part. And I think any writer who doesn't think that maybe should be thinking about something else besides writing.
What's the worst part about being a writer?
You know, very few writers are J.K. Rowling. Most of us balance a full-time job, as I do here, with our families and with writing. And so it's the time management. It's learning how to juggle things, to find time every day to get words on the paper. There are always these all competing things, things competing for attention, whether it's work, whether it's, you know, you want to go to all your kids' soccer games, you want to spend time with your family and your friends, and yet you've got to have this regular time for writing. So bringing all those into balance is the hardest thing for me. What's
the best writing job you've had?
These books right here. I mean, I've been doing writing, you know, freelance writing, reporting, corporate newsletters, that sort of thing since I was probably 19 or 20. And I feel like all of that experience came up to these books where I got to take things that I was really interested in, literature and history, and bring them together for the first time. And that was very cool.
Okay. What's the worst job you've had that was good preparation for being a writer?
Oh, man. You know, I've had a lot of jobs, and I wouldn't call any of them worse jobs. I've been a jewelry maker's assistant. I worked as an undergraduate, as a resident advisor. That was in the dorms. That was a challenging job. I've been a house painter. I've done aviation safety research. I worked at Children's Hospital, both on inpatient units, and then later as a manager. I've been in graduate school. I've worked at other schools, and then here at the university, and I've loved everything that I've done. It's all been fun. I've had the chance to work with some great people and just do lots of different interesting things, and the range of things that I've done all feeds into the writing because it gives me all this experience with different people in different circumstances, and I really like that.
Okay. And so at some point we'll look for Proctor Brown to paint a couple of houses and be very
Book
specific.
3.
Book 3, okay.
Book 3, yeah.
Right.
Using period brushes and period pigmentation, yeah.
Excellent. What would you do if you didn't write, if you weren't a writer? What do you think you'd pick up instead?
You know, I grew up wanting to be an artist. I wanted to be a comic book artist. My introduction to literature was comic books. I think I picked up those before I started to read, and I drew comics all the way through high school and into college. And I also started writing at the same time. And I got to a point where I realized I probably wasn't going to be good at both. I could either become really good at, you know, learning to tell stories eventually, or I could focus and learn to become good at art. And there are people like Jeff Smith, for example, who manages to be great at both. James Owens is another person who's a fantastic artist, and he also writes great books. But for me, I didn't feel like I was going to be able to balance the two. So if I were to stop writing and go back to doing something else, I'd like to go back and pick up art again.
Okay. What genre haven't you written that you'd like to try?
You know, I wrote short stories for probably about 10 years before I wrote this series of books. And the short stories I wrote were all over the place, from kind of just straight up literary short stories to science fiction, fantasy, horror, the genre stories. wrote some mystery. I tried some experimental fiction. I wrote a story that was nothing but footnotes. It was a series of footnotes, and you had to read the footnotes and from them infer what happened. It was, to this piece of history.
Sounds like an academic piece.
It was. I did it while I was
in
in graduate school. I was working on my thesis. So I think I've played with and tried all of a lot of those different things, and I've written a lot of different genres, mostly in the realm of short fiction. So I've been very happy now to kind of settle back into novels, and I like doing that. If I were to want to do something else, because I grew up with my kids, and I think my children came to story first through film, by watching shows on television, by seeing movies, and then became readers of books. I believe that the experience of learning story through film is a different experience than the one of written fiction. So I've become much more interested in that, and I'd like to try my hand at screenplay someday, or to adapt that kind of story and learn those kinds of differences. But in terms of written, fiction, just things that you read on the page that are non-collaborative, that you do by yourself, I've tried a range of stuff, and I like writing novels.
Okay. The last question, what's your secret vice of an author or a genre? The one that you don't tell anybody about, but you need to now.
Gosh. Does anybody just come in and say penthouse letters? Is that
not yet, but
that's not going to happen this time
yeah,
either.
We could end on that. That's fine.
No, I'm trying to think, what is a secret advice that someone would really admit to?
Reading academic journals might be one.
Well, yeah. I read Foucault. That's, I think, the Discipline and Punish. It's right there by my bed.
And we're back to the penthouse letters.
Yeah, I think I like...
That's a Foucault joke, by the way.
I like reading outside genre, although I write science fiction and fantasy, mostly fantasy these days. A lot of my reading, I love John le Carré, I like Martin Cruz Smith, I like Elmore Leonard. So I like, reading crime and spy novels. I don't know that I've got the experience or the temperament to write those kinds of novels as well as they do, but I really enjoy them and admire them.
Well, thank you very much, CC Finlay, Charlie, and the book again is The Patriot Witch. It is available this week, I believe.
This book's been out for about a month, and the book coming out this week is the sequel, Spell for the Revolution. So you don't have to wait a year if you like the first book to read the next one. Right. They're just coming out a few weeks apart.
And then The Demon Redcoat comes out?
In June.
In June. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.